how open you are as far as performance-enhancing drugs.
Nobody trains hard anymore, right? That's bullshit. For fixing stuff on blood work, just an upper-lower split.
How about IGF-1, LR3, LR1?
So right now I'm getting ready for the New York Pro. All these cool drugs that are hard to find, they're super expensive. I was using more growth hormone, I think, 700 and 1200, anywhere between there. So for what I do, my blood work is pretty good.
So here we go, guys. Alex, Beef Stew here at Apollo Nutrition booth, Arnold Sports Festival 2024. Tell me about your plans maybe first. What's going to happen this year as far as competing?
So right now I'm getting ready for the New York Pro in 10 weeks. I just started dieting a couple weeks ago and everything's on track. Unlike last year, I was working a full-time job last year in construction, and now I'm able to, because I don't have that, I'm able to, go and do more shows. So I'm planning on doing, 3, 4, 5 shows tentatively. I'm going to do New York, California, and Toronto, and then a few more later in the season, depending on how things pan out. Obviously my goal is to try and qualify for the Olympia this year.
That's right.
I'm not going to put the cart before the horse. I'm not sure if I'm capable, but depending on the show, I think there's going to be a lot more competition this year compared to some of the shows last year. There's going to be better lineups. And
why do you think is that?
Well, there's some guys who sat out last year, and some guys who just kind of picked one-off shows, qualified, and then we're done. There's a lot of big names competing here today who are going to continue into the season and try and qualify. So I'll have a lot of stiff competition, but my strategy, if you call it that, is just keep showing up and hope they don't, and see if I can slide in a qualification.
All right. Can you tell me, rewinding, back up, to the day when you first realized that you want to be a bodybuilder? It's the main thing that you do for living. How do you come to this point? For people to understand who's not a bodybuilder.
Well, you
have to love it so much, right?
Yeah, I've always.
And what is that you love?
Yeah, when I was in school, when I was working after school, it's always been I need something to keep myself busy. When I stopped playing sports in high school, I'm energetic. I gotta be active and doing something, and I happen to fall into the gym, and I happen to be good at it. Luckily I was able to find something I love doing, and I could take to a pretty high level. I love training. I love living the lifestyle. I love going to events like this and meeting people because they're all kind of doing the same thing as me, and it's fun to hang out with people like that. I just happen to be lucky enough now that after a pretty good season last year, and joining up with Paul and growing my coaching business, I'm able to do the full-time bodybuilding gig, and yeah, it's a dream come true. Not a lot of people get to make a living doing what they love, and here I am.
So what is that you like in bodybuilding the most? Is it working out itself? Is it being on stage, showcasing your work? Or like you said, just socializing with like-minded people?
I think what appeals to me most about this sport is there is no easy way to do it properly, especially at the highest level, at the amateur level, lower pro level, you can kind of get away with stuff. You can maybe perform well on stage even if you weren't perfect, depending on how many gifts you have, but at the highest level, everybody they're cutthroat. They're all trying to take your head off and win, and nobody's giving up an inch of ground. And I can always look at the people who I compete against, my peers in the pro league and also at the amateur level, and know that they're putting 110% into what they're doing. And I have a great deal of respect for them because I know what it takes to compete at this level. You can't cut corners. You can't get away with nothing. And knowing what all my competition and my peers are doing, it reminds me that there's always another gear. There's always, you can always push things a little further and be a little more perfect and on top of stuff because, yeah, yeah, we're all pretty good at doing what we're doing, but we can all get better at it. So, especially this year, since, you know, I don't have a day job, you know, I don't have a lot of the responsibilities that I did last year, I really don't have any excuses anymore. Like, this is my life. And, you know,
but
so
most bodybuilders are like that, right? They don't have day job.
well, I wouldn't say most. The top guys, yes. But, you know, a lot of guys, a lot of professionals, they work day jobs, you know, they go to the office, they train people in the gym, whatever. Unfortunately, they don't just throw six-figure contracts at you when you get a pro card like they used to. But, yeah, I mean, they're, especially this year, because I've got the time now, and I've got, like, you know, the stakes are higher for me. You know, the way that I perform is going to affect, you know, not just my career trajectory, but like, you know, how much money they make doing this is like
quality of your life.
Yeah, it's real now. You know, it has stakes. So like knowing that, like I am a different level of focused when it comes to this this whole sport. You know,
so you're definitely getting better this year then.
Better. What I need to do for my physique to take me to like a seriously competitive level is just insane conditioning. You know, I don't have some of the bells and whistles and, you know, crazy freaky body parts that some guys have, but if I'm really, really hard and really conditioned, then, you know, I might be able to jump over some of these guys if they're slipping. So, you know, showing up a lot and being consistent and conditioned is going to be my whole game this year, I think.
While you were like getting inspired to get into this sport, were there anyone that you were looking up to, like, okay, this is the guy that I want to be like, or maybe kind of like in the future?
You know, when I first started working out, I was watching, and this kind of shows my age, how young I am compared to some of these guys. Like, I was watching YouTubers. You know, I wasn't even on Instagram yet. I was watching like guys on YouTube, you know, explaining
exactly.
Gosh, Matt Ogus, you remember him?
I remember him.
Yeah. He comes to mind. Elliot Hulse, you remember him? Oh yeah, he's a weird guy in retrospect. But yeah, you know, just kind of like the early guys into like 2013, 2014 who were doing YouTube videos about bodybuilding and fitness and stuff.
How about Rich Piana?
Yeah, I watched a bit of Rich Piana.
Fun guy to watch, right?
Oh my God. Yeah, we didn't realize how good we had it with him around. He's so entertaining. But you know, that's how I kind of got introduced to it. And then as I got further into it, learned more about the sport. I'd say that like one of my favorite bodybuilders is Evan Centopani, and I think he's here. I want to go say hi to him while I'm at the Arnold. But you know, I've always admired him a lot, not just because he was a good competitor and I like the way he looked, but because he's like a well-balanced man. Like he has a lot of qualities that I think we could do to emulate. You know, he's a father. He's well spoken. I don't know. I've always been a big fan of him.
How open you are as far as performance enhancing drugs? Can we talk about that a little?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Everyone's different. I think what I do is pretty standard from what I've learned talking to my peers and so forth. You know, some guys, especially like I heard like over in Europe and England, they're more aggressive. And then there's some guys you'd be shocked at how little they need to take to look incredibly good. And it all just kind of depends on you. There's a lot of people that don't need to use as much because, you know, they're just more gifted. And you know, good for them. I personally, my whole view on it is like, it's something you need to do in order to be competitive, but you need to be smart. You need to not rely on the drugs more than is necessary, and you need to monitor your health markers and address them as things get out of range, and they will get messed up if you're not careful. So, you know, take medications, control your blood pressure, take supplements to help with that, with all the things that you're going to be stressing your body out with. And I'm lucky because, you know, when I turned pro and when I was like starting to compete, people were actually talking about this stuff, like telling you, check your blood work, you know, stay on top of your health markers. If this had been me like 10, 20 years ago, I mean, nobody was talking about that back then. I don't think they really knew any better. And that's why guys in their 40s and 50s are dropping now, because, I mean, you know, they were aggressive and they didn't realize the damage that they were doing. They didn't really know any better. So I'm lucky to, you know, have been come up in this time frame where people are, you know, talking more openly about like the damage that this stuff can do to you and how to fix it or mitigate it at least.
How about you personally? Do you have to take a lot? Testosterone-wise, we're not talking about like anabolics, just testosterone-wise. How much do you need as a pro?
Between 700 and 1200, anywhere between there, depending on where I'm at. Grand total with all the other stuff in there, about 2,000 milligrams total, typically. And that's pretty standard for somebody my size.
I know some men's physique guys who takes the same amount.
Exactly, you know, so you wonder why they're doing that. So, you know, for somebody about my size, that's pretty standard. But, you know, again, I know other guys who, you know, beat the socks off of me last year who do less. And again, you know, some people will be able to get away with using more drugs without impacting their blood work as negatively.
Yeah.
And good for them. You know, I actually have a client who's got like, it's just a family condition, some genetic thing. His cholesterol never gets out of range, no matter what he does. Very lucky, you know. His numbers are absolutely perfect. And I'm like, great. That doesn't mean we're gonna go be stupid, you know. But like, you know, this is one less thing we need to worry about.
That's right.
Because that's just one thing that's gonna affect, right? So it doesn't mean throw caution to the wind. But yeah, you know, that's a very, again, I base risk and risk tolerance off of what is your blood work looking like? What are the numbers looking like? How do we control the risks that we're taking? And if you can kind of like, you know, be reasonable with that, then, you know, you are able to push when you need to and pull back when you need to, right?
So when people say he's genetically gifted for bodybuilding, it's not only his roundness of his muscle bellies, it's his ability to digest performance-enhancing drugs too, right?
And digest food and everything else, yeah. How much wear and tear can your body take before it starts to crack? Some people are more durable than others. I'd say, you know, for what I do, my blood work is pretty good compared to like some other people and, you know, doing similar stuff. I will say that I probably respond better as far as growth compared to what some of my peers are doing. I mean, just because in the last few years, especially, the amount of muscle that I put on in that time frame is abnormal. Especially from 2021 to 2022, I put on like 25 pounds of stage weight, I think, which is not normal for a single off season.
That's insane. That's a lot.
So I went from like a heavyweight all the way up to like a legit super heavyweight in 15 months, which is a lot. And I think.
Did you start eating more? What was it? Is it drugs?
Not really. I mean, my drugs were about the same. My food was high. It always needs to be high because I struggle to eat. I always have to force a lot of food down. But that was.
What was so special about these 15 months then?
I was using more growth hormone, I think, and I think part of it was just my age. Like I was. I think I was about 25 in that time frame. I was like 24, 25 when I put on all that muscle, and like I think my body just kind of like my metabolism slowed down a little bit. All that food that I was eating started to stick a little more instead of just going right through me, because I'd had an issue with that in the past. So, I mean, yeah, whatever it was, it did me good, and I won the USA's the next year.
So growth, you said you upgraded a little bit. So
working with
from 10 to 20, or like from 5 to 10?
From like 4 and up to around 10. That's about where I stay. You know, I feel good on it. My blood sugars are under control there, so, you know, that's my sweet spot. I've tried pushing it higher and I felt terrible.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary.
Puffy in
And
your
also,
hands.
what's that?
Puffy in your hands, blood pressure.
Everywhere. Yeah, just like when my blood pressure went up, I felt like super tight and sore and just, and my blood sugar started getting really high as well, which is a bigger issue. So yeah, I don't think it's necessary. You know, looking at my physique, I don't need to put on 10, 15 pounds from where I am now to be competitive. I need like a couple of pounds in the right places and, you know, more conditioning. And then I'm gonna be in the mix, you know. If I were to put 10 pounds on from where I am now, maybe I could do it, but is it necessary? And would my physique actually look better if it were that much bigger? And I'm not sure it would, you know, maybe my waist...
the bigger doesn't necessarily mean the better, right?
I'd say 95% of the time it is.
Yeah.
But when you're like already professional bodybuilder size, maybe not. So, you know, depends on the person.
What about insulin? Does it have to go together, hand in hand with growth, or not necessarily?
I like to use pre-workout insulin typically. When my food gets extremely high, which it usually does, I'll use some long-acting insulin like Lantus basically to control my blood sugar. At that point, you're dealing with your pancreas is working so hard to produce enough insulin to process all that food that it just can't keep up. So you're kind of like giving it a little support, you know, a little assistance with that long-acting insulin, so it doesn't have to work quite as hard, and you can actually, you know, process and shuttle all the carbs that you're eating.
If we're talking short life insulin, what would you recommend? When to take it?
I usually do anywhere from like 6 to 9, 10 units, about half an hour pre-workout, and you have to be using an intra-workout carb source with that. Like usually
clustered dextrine?
Yeah, clustered dextrin with essential aminos. Otherwise you'll go hypo and have serious issues. But I've never gone higher than 10 on pre-workout, and I think I've done up to 25 or 30 units of Lantus in the morning, again, to help with my blood sugars more than anything. I don't really know if it has a huge effect as far as helping you grow, but you know, if your body can't produce enough insulin on its own to, you know, shuttle all the nutrients that you're eating, then you need to help it out. So in that respect, it would help you grow. But I'm not using more of it as more of a performance enhancer, if that makes sense. It's just like a little assistance. You know, I wouldn't use that if your blood sugars weren't already creeping up, your food wasn't high, you know? So it depends on the situation.
So you check your blood sugar. Mm-hmm. You start with growth, then you check your blood sugar. If you see that it's already piking up, maybe it's not a good idea to experiment with insulin separately.
I think pre-workout insulin can still be useful, but those long-acting insulins, if you're not having blood sugar issues, I don't really see the point. Again, it's not really a performance enhancer. It's just an assistance to help you deal with the amount of food that you're eating. Because you can't do it naturally with your own pancreas, right? So you just need a little help there.
And you also mentioned these supplements that bodybuilders need to take to eliminate the potential side effects of the performance-enhancing drugs.
Yeah.
What would those be? Top 3 or top 5, whatever?
So for fixing stuff on blood work, I think it should go without saying that you're taking fish oil and a multivitamin. Those are pretty standard. For your cholesterol numbers, I really like to use citrus bergamot, which is a plant extract, which is very helpful for improving your cholesterol numbers. And if you're having kidney issues, so you know your EGFR is starting to come down below where it should be, astragalus extract is very good. And it's particularly good because you can dose it very high. you can take up to like 4, 5, 6 grams of that a day. You know, the pills are usually like 500 milligrams each, right? But you can take a lot of it, and it will have like a proportionally better effect on your kidneys. I always just take it as a staple. I don't need to take a lot of it. My kidneys have always been good, but I've always got that little support in there, so I think that helps out. I think
liver.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have just as a standard baseline some antioxidants like NAC. When you're using things that might be taxing your liver, TUDCA is very important to add in, like when you're using, say, orals to prevent, you know, overworking it. And I'm not really big on milk thistle, but I think if you're running enough TUDCA alongside, you know, any orals that you're using, you should be okay. Liver is a pretty durable organ.
It can recover itself, right?
Yes, unlike your kidneys. You really have to stay on top of your kidney stuff. So control your blood pressure and make sure your GFR is good.
What can you say about peptides? Is there anything that is legit and that can be useful for people who's trying to compete and get the shape better?
I think all of like your growth hormone releasing peptides and all that crap, toss it. It's not worthwhile. Just use growth hormone. It's a waste of money, and it's going to have more side effects than just using the real thing, and it will cost more money. The 3 things that I think are worthwhile are BPC 157 and TB 500. Yeah, for if you have like an injury or something that's a nagging pain that you need to address. Like I've been using that recently on my knee because I've had really bad knee tendonitis on my left knee here, and it's helped me to, like, you know, along with like warming up properly and everything, I'm now able to, like, you know, train this leg properly because I wasn't able to before.
Are you injecting it locally to your knee area?
Yes. It's kind of weird. You gotta pinch the skin on your knee.
Directly to the skin?
Yeah, yeah. Not into the tendon, but you know, it's still weird. And then the other thing that I've used is melanotan.
All right.
So like,
I can see your skin got a little bit darker.
Yeah, I'm using that right now. I'm going to be doing a little bit of bed tanning this year before I get on stage, because it'll help my color look better when I'm up there. You know, you maybe won't have to use as many coats of tan. You look darker on stage. I didn't do that in previous years, and I think it'll help a little bit this year.
How about IGF-1, LR3, LR1?
You know, if you have real IGF-1,
which no one does.
Yeah, if you have real Increlex, let me know, because I'd love to try it. But the stuff that you're buying off of peptide sites here in the U.S.
It seems like so many people are now relying on this IGF-1 peptides. So many people buying them.
Yeah.
You go to these websites and they show it on the websites, and a few days later it's sold out.
Yeah, I've personally never used it. I'm very skeptical of whether or not it's real, because when you hear about people talking about like real Increlex, you know, that they spent like $5,000 on a bottle for it, it's that expensive. You know, it's not really, the results that they get from the real thing are insane. And you're not seeing that with guys using peptides off of research chemical websites. So
who get to use that? I mean, if I asked Ronnie Coleman if he had a chance, if he had his hands on it, he said no. Like, I remember Ishpiana, like that we were talking about earlier. He also mentioned in one of his videos that he once tried it once in his life, real thing, and the effect that he got was so insane that whatever he tried after that, it never worked the same way. So it's very hard to get. So who is it designed for? What is it?
Who's it actually?
Where is it actually?
I mean, I've heard that a lot
real
of it
IGF-1.
I think most of the real thing comes out of France. So guys over in Europe are better able to access it. Here in the States, I have no idea. I mean, I think you probably have to know a guy, and I don't know a guy. So, and I also
not too many French guys on Olympia stage.
Yeah, maybe they need more of it. No matter where you are in the world nowadays, you're gonna have hard time finding that stuff. And even if you can, you got to ask yourself, is it worth dumping, potentially tens of thousands of dollars into this? Could you just do it the way that everyone else does it? Is it really going to take you to the next level? Probably not. If you're an amateur and you're trying to turn pro, the thing that's missing is probably not Increlex. It's probably conditioning or something simple like that. We like to really focus on all these cool drugs that are hard to find, they're super expensive. Because it's fun and exciting to talk about that stuff, but
everybody's sometimes looking for a secret pill, right?
Yeah, sometimes you just need to eat more fish and rice, and just suffer more. And
that's just boring.
I know, yeah. Doesn't get clicks, but it's true.
I mean, it's boring for people. You just need to work harder and eat more.
Yeah.
Who does that?
I don't like talking about that either. Who cares, But
in reality, this is what separates professionals from people who's trying to get that pro cards, amateurs.
Yeah, if you have the genetics for it, then you need to make the most of it. If you're not making the most of everything that you're doing right now, then going and buying Increlex is not going to fix the problem for you, unfortunately.
Do you feel like your hair is giving you a special look on stage and people?
Oh yes, absolutely. I am, I'm kind of tempted to ask Tyler or Steve what they think of it and whether it would impact my placings. But at the same time, I'm scared of the answer, because if they say that I need to get rid of it, I don't want to get rid of it, So I think it's better to, I'm just gonna rock it, man. See what happens. If my hair's really holding me back that much, then so be it. It is what it is. My mom likes it, so I can't cut it off anymore, man. She was mad when I cut it last time.
There is a lot of people, I'm talking about professional people, that say that the only way to put the new muscle tissue on is to go crazy heavy with the compound movements. You can't get your back thicker if you don't do heavy as barbell rows. You cannot build any size with cable rows. So you can only do the shape, you can only get the depth of the separation of the muscle bellies, but size-wise, you're not adding any size until you do heavy as barbell row.
Well, you can do heavy-ass cable rows too, with good form and recruiting your muscles properly. People like to foo-foo newer school stuff because nobody trains hard anymore, right? I love hearing that. That's my favorite thing. That's bullshit, All the people I'm competing against, they train really hard. Maybe they're not in Metroflex like Ronnie and Branch were, but they're training really hard. Maybe in a cleaner gym, but we're still working. I think people just like to kind of throw shade and have something to talk about, and talk shit about each other sometimes. But if you're checking those boxes like I talked about, and you're growing, you're progressing, then who am I to tell you different? Now, if you're not, then you maybe need to look into what you're doing and address one of those aspects. Are you actually taking a set to failure? Do you know what that really feels like? When you're getting crushed by a leg press or a hack squat, do you know what it feels like to find another gear and finish that rep if you're able to? A lot of people don't, and that's not something you can really teach or explain to someone. They just have to learn to do it by doing it. Are you just doing way too much work in the gym? If you're doing 20, 30 set workouts for chest, some people can recover from that. Personally, that's as much work as I do in 3 weeks. 4 weeks maybe. I'm not really sure, but it's
8 to 10 sets for chest, you're done, right?
If that, yeah, maybe 6 to 7. I'm kind of lower volume guy myself.
Press, and back to press, couple of sets, that's it, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Do you do separate days for chest, shoulders, every muscle group, or you combine them?
No, I do kind of a push-pull variation. My split's kind of different from some of the standard stuff right now because I have things I want to work on. So like I'm training my back twice a week. I have an arm day. I don't recommend an arm day for a lot of people, but for me, I really need to bring up my arms. So I included that. Twice a week back. And I also have a little bit of touch-up work for my glutes and hams on one of my back days. So I'll do hamstring curls and glute work on that day because that's just somewhere else where I want to put a little bit of extra tissue on there, a little extra emphasis. But that's, that's specifically set up by me for me. It wouldn't necessarily be good for someone else in a different position,
Basic training split for people who's trying to get size on. Let's say advanced beginners. Do you consider it push-pull leg day, rest, push-pull leg day, rest?
That can work, but I'm going to be a little controversial and say just an upper-lower split.
All right.
So I think people really underestimate how useful that can be. If you're doing an upper day, a lower day, and a rest day, you're doing a 2-on-1 off, so you're getting plenty of recovery time. You're hitting everything every 3 days, so a ton of frequency. And if you're really focusing on movements that are going to get you the most bang for your buck, so again, your compound movements and getting strong at them, really fucking strong, then if you're doing that, hitting everything every 3 days, lots of recovery time, and just eating like a madman, or to your needs rather, there's no way you're not going to grow. Again, assuming the intensity is there. If you're taking sets to a 6 out of 10, a 7 out of 10, you're leaving a ton of reps on the table, no, it's not going to work. But yeah, I think an upper-lower split, I've got a couple of my clients on it right now, and it works really well. So I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay, guys, let's wrap it up for today. Thank you so much, Beef Stew. Nice talking to you. Come say hi at this Arnold or maybe next Arnold in 2025.
All right, dude.
Thanks, man.
Cool.